This is Daniel Simon at Baton Rouge Community College, and this week I have another preview of the semester for the History 1123 online course. Of course, I'll talk about Canvas modules for weeks 5 through 8. So you go to Canvas modules right now in Canvas. You can see there weeks 5, which will be kind of important at that period of the semester. We do have, of course, an upcoming major assessment, which is the first exam, which is going to be on the Age of Absolutism. So I do have a continuation of week 5 with lectures, parts 3 and 4 from the Age of Absolutism, which are on rise of the Prussian state in Europe, with Frederick the Great, of course, most famous ruler of that time period. And then also, I do talk about also the rise of the Russian Empire up to the time of Peter the Great and Catherine the Great as well. So I do have like the lectures listed there with the, don't forget about the main announcements that I have posted, which are in announcements, but I do, email those to you as well. But I do have the original announcements right there and the lectures below, which are separated in different parts. It's part 3 and there's a part 4 as well. And I do have combined versions. I think I've got, well, I don't know if I have a combined one for that one, but I do have audio versions of those two that I have that are podcasts. So there's discussion sections if you're interested in that for bonus points. If you have a comment or question about these lectures. And then I do have the first exam quiz, which is, like I said, on the Age of Absolutism lectures right there, parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it does go back to like the time of Louis the 14th, of course, the Bourbon period of France, and then, of course, the Habsburgs. I talked about the rise of the Spanish Habsburgs, which are only around to like close to 1700, and then, of course, the Austrian, Habsburg Empire they have later, Austrian Empire, Austro-Hungarian Empire, of course, they'll have later in modern times. Then, of course, there's the original announcement in the exam right there. I do have a review for this section. If you're interested in that, if you want to go back and kind of review the different historical topics from the different study guides, if you go to the PowerPoints, and of course the study guides I have listed in Canvas assignments and Canvas modules. I do have study guides, of course, for that section. So I do have a review on that, which here's, you can see the different study guides that are there. I've got the one specifically for just Age of Absolutism, of course, that are right there. So those are kind of, review questions to help you, guide you for that assessment for you to complete. Now let's go on to the next period. There's, of course, a week 6. I'll have, you see here, going more into mid-February. That's going to be on the lectures on the scientific revolution and the age of enlightenment, which is a kind of an important period that really helps end that period of the age of absolutism, because that's going to lead into causing like the American Revolution, French Revolution, which that changes a lot of things like in Europe and North America as a whole. This particular assignment will be for extra credit for the semester. There'll be like a bonus quiz. I call it the first exam bonus quiz on those topics right there, but that's going to be for extra credit on that. And that's based off of a PowerPoint and just one main lecture that I've got for that particular assessment overall. So you can see that's going to be due more until like later March in Canvas modules. Of course, you see with that. Then if you keep going down into week 7, I do have a lecture series that I've got on the rise of the British Empire. This really goes into more like in the history of England in modern times, especially with the Tudor dynasty. So I start talking about Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I from that period. Go into the Stuart period also as well, going up through like talking about the, English Civil War, through the Glorious Revolution and so on afterwards. I kind of do briefly talk about later, like the British state UK, which is more later into like the 19th, 20th centuries. But I think mostly that particular lecture series is more about like early modern Britain more than anything. So those are the different announcements, of course, about it right there with the actual lectures. So part 1 and part 2. I think part 1 kind of goes from like I want to say the time of the I guess that would be from the beginning, like when the Tudor period up through like around close to the English Civil War. And then the part 2 goes up through the English Civil War up to closer to modern British history. So there's the PowerPoints with that. And yeah, like I said, if you have a discussion question or something like that, do let me know also about that. So there's the actual quiz assessment that'll be later. You'll see, you won't see it now, but you'll see it later, of course, in the semester. Then if you keep going down, there's one more section that I'll have like week 8, which will be, of course, on the French Revolution and Age of Napoleon, kind of an important period that we'll have. This will kind of start after the Mardi Gras holiday. I think if you know about Mardi Gras in Louisiana, we're all from, looks like Monday, March 3rd to Tuesday, March 4th. So no classes during that time period. But I'll kind of post that sometime after, of course, Mardi Gras ends. But yeah, that period's coming up. There won't be a major assessment about this period, like in that week 8. But French Revolution, Napoleonic, periods are going to be posted later for like a major assessment, which will be on the second exam. So that'll be much later when that's going to be. I think closer to like maybe like week 10, maybe, or something like that. That's when that'll be. So part 1 is mostly about the French Revolution, the period, like its background up to like the end of it. And I kind of might start talking about Napoleon a little bit at the end, I think, with that period. And then, of course, the second part 2 is mostly about, of course, the age of Napoleon, what Napoleonic Empire that affects Europe, things like that during that time period, which is really a turbulent period. Like the Napoleonic Wars were some of the most bloodiest conflicts in modern times before World War I, World War II. So that's anyway. Like I said, it'll be like assessed later, but not during that time period, of course. With that, so yeah, those are the discussion sections if you're interested, of course, in that. Also for extra credit. So yeah, like I said, don't forget about the bonus for that section. So that's basically what I've got for modules, Canvas modules, of course, for History 1123. That's for weeks 5 through 8. If you got a comment, question, of course, about the course, do let me know, of course, via email or also Canvas discussion. So this is kind of a short video talking about the direction of the semester, kind of like midway almost, just about, not quite, but pretty much getting up to the midterm part of the semester. So that's it for this particular short video. I'll see you, of course, off and on during the semester. So everybody, take care.